Hello, homeschool mamas. It's so lovely to see you this very dreary Thursday morning on the Pacific Coast. I am so pleased today I get to introduce you to Shayla Peterson. She is someone that I have interviewed on my podcast, and the reason I interviewed her is because she is a wealth of knowledge. She's from the account Control Shift Balance, and we chat a lot mindful techniques to address anxiety and stress. And that is essentially what her account is about. Hey, Shayla, how are you?
Good.
Good. So good to see you. Welcome. I'm glad to hear from you or to see you. You're right now in the Midwest, right? Is it as overcast as it is here on the Pacific Coast?
No, it's actually pretty sunny. Now it is cold. So I'm
Yeah.
up in New York.
Oh, right. You're right. I
Yeah,
remember that. Oh, how lovely. So, but you've had quite a bit of rain these days, I hear.
we did. It rained all day yesterday. Very cold, and I want to say the day before. So I'm actually embracing the sunshine. I don't have my ring light today because the
Me
sun is
too.
just, so I am grateful and appreciate the awe in the day.
I've infused a higher dosage of vitamin D because I live in the northern hemisphere, so that's a requirement. And I also have my UV light on every morning for about 15 minutes while I journal. Is there anything that you especially do when the seasons transition?
Well, like you with the UV light, I do have one of these lights as well. I turn that for a couple of minutes a day. I think it's like 10 minutes that you can use it. And then, of course, also just keeping up with the routine. I know you and I have talked about before,
Yeah.
and it gives us that consistency to kind of just to be able to get of the day or whatever comes way, kind of
You
root
know,
it in the beginning of the day. That helps.
noticing I'm not catching every one of your words. I'm not sure if everybody else is able to. I'm wondering if maybe it's the Wi-Fi.
Maybe so. I can turn off my Wi-Fi and just go. Let's see what happens. Hopefully, I don't click off.
Right. Are you still there?
Okay, I'm back.
Oh, that
Um,
worked. Oh, and I didn't hear your voice. Gotta love tech. You'll love it when you have it working.
so no, it doesn't sound better.
Oh, no, you do now. That sounds great.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, let's just go with that until otherwise. I've learned technology is just requiring me to be patient and flexible, just like kids.
Yes, that is so true. And I know we talked about technology last time. It's good when it works, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, first of all, just for our audience on the Homeschool Mama Self Care side, I know that your audience is familiar with you. Tell me about your family. You have children, your experience of the pandemic and being a parent.
Yes. So outside of being a therapist, it's one of my first jobs. Being a mom, right? I very much ambitious, energized, 9-year-old. So you can imagine how it was to being, a pseudo during the
Right.
it was, and I was being very transparent. It was kind of challenging, for me. And I think what also challenging is that I was also go through the same thing. So while I was counseling others, also being able, have to seek work and what I needed to do, continue to be present, to balance this whole new thing that was very foreign to me. That was something I signed up for. But I was able to kind of create a system around that, and it really worked out. And I cherished the time that we had together every day between and helping her was getting, emotional needs met, her social needs met, intelligent, her intellectual needs as well during that time when she was home while we were experiencing the pandemic.
First of all, I am still hearing you go in and out a little bit. I would love to hear if anybody else is having that experience, or maybe it's just me and my Wi-Fi. That's always a possibility. The other thought I have, yeah, just what you said. you are actually having to help other people go through this thing when you've not lived through a pandemic, obviously. And you're also having to parent and bring your kids home and do some distance learning and figure out how to manage school and work and all of the emotions, all of that stuff. You're having your own experience outside of that. So, you address in your account stress and worry. I should say that's the primary. I know you address all the uncomfortable emotions, but it is most definitely an area that many people are experiencing this year for a variety of different reasons. We've had all of our comfortable coping mechanisms peeled back, and now we're just bare and having to address what's down here. So what would you say to that?
Yeah, so that is true. And, when I talk about, top worries or things that we stress about or anxiety, I think about one, our health, right? Health of others, our family, income, the money that's coming in, money that's going out, our losses, right? And then just worry, getting
Yeah.
raw. And what I realized during the pandemic, what happened is we started about all five of them. And
Yeah.
that's we're using it maybe one or two, maybe three, and figure it got all thrown out. It was really overwhelming, right? And so some of the things that I started to teach is I came up with the acronym, and one of them is getting tough, especially when it was time at homeschool, right?
Okay.
Or that learning with our kids is one. Oh, it says it's yeah. Okay, I'm not sure how to handle that part. Does this sound better?
Sounds good to me right now. I'll
Okay,
tell
well,
you this.
I'm gonna hold the phone then. That's what I'll do.
I don't know
So
if it's Instagram or if it's Wi-Fi because I've had this on repeat with people and it happens only with Instagram. But I'm getting to be kind of an expert at listening to people with every second sentence. Talk about a listening practice or every second word, I should say.
yeah, I am so sorry because I know
No,
I
don't
wanted to
be.
get across.
Yeah, share it
And
again.
yeah, I will keep sharing. And
Okay.
so one of the things, the acronym that I came up with to help mothers and, of course, help myself during that time was the brace, right? It was
Yeah.
brace. And so one is making that time to breathe, literally scheduling your time to take a deep breath. We're usually doing shallow breaths all day long, or we're just hustling and bustling and moving and going. And so we want to make sure that we just take that time to breathe. Thank
Yeah.
you, Married to Navy. And
Thank
so
you.
then the next one is being realistic about what we had set for our day. Right. So when
Yeah,
we set our
that's so
attention
true.
for the day, we can really set those intentions, but we want to be realistic about what that looks like, right? And what we can do that day. So that would be number two. And then so for the A, acceptance. And what
Yeah.
I say about that one is just as because we accept something doesn't necessarily that we agree.
Right.
And so, but going along, creating a plan around there, saying, you know what? I know this wasn't what I signed up for. This isn't, one of the top things on my list. However, I'm going to accept that this is just what it is, and I'm going to make the best out of it at this time. So the
Yeah.
acceptance. And then, of course, we want to go with compassion. What are those same things that we would tell someone else? And so that's how
Yeah.
I came up with that. I was like, well, what am I sharing with these other mothers? What am I sharing with the
Right.
other women who are experiencing this with their family at the same time? So treating myself with that same compassion of like, Shayla, I know it's challenging right now, but things are going to get better. This will become our new normal. We will find routines surrounding this, right? And
Beautiful.
last but not least is expectations, right? We want to expect the good. We want to expect positive, even when things are tough. And like I said at the top, it's like we can find the awe in the day. What's that thing that just brings just a little bit of a smile or a half smile to our face? And so if
Yes.
we kept that in mind, those were things that helped me to keep going and some of the same tools that I shared with my clients during that same process.
That's beautiful. And actually, I really loved how you did that. You essentially said, how would I address a friend or how would I address one of my clients? So then how am I going to address myself? And that is actually what I do when I'm feeling incredible emotions, intense emotions. Sometimes I find it more effective for me to look into the mirror and speak to myself like a friend than it is even sometimes to speak to a good friend or my partner or a therapist. Sometimes it's more effective because my tendency is to speak to those people about my complaints. And kind of go on a little rabbit trail of all the things that don't make me happy about something or what I don't like about the scenario. And it's like almost like a process of non-acceptance until somebody calls me on it and then helps to, get me down a different path. But if I'm really intense and I'm feeling all the emotions, I'm looking into the mirror and I'm speaking to myself the things that are true. And that's exactly what you're saying. So in the form of brace, no, that's not right.
No, it's right. It's
It's
brace.
right.
Yep.
You know what I love is that at 11 o'clock every day, this seems to interfere with my online stuff, but I get an alarm from this, my iPod, because I don't own a phone. I'm the only one in North America who doesn't have a phone. And proud of it, obviously. But 11 a.m. every day, I get a notification that just tells me to breathe. And so I just stop. And it's like, okay, what am I feeling right now? What am I feeling inside my heart and my gut and all of that? And it just helps me to stop. And I heard you refer to that as well.
Yes. Oh my goodness. That is so great, Teresa, that you have that timer on your iPod.
Yes.
I have one
They
on
still
my,
exist.
I have it on my watch, which is, I call it the iWatch, but I think it's just called the Apple Watch. I don't know why I renamed it.
Right.
But I use that as a time to take, a moment to breathe. But for those who don't want to use technology or a reminder, even if we're teaching our kids the same technique, right? Because we are those models. I go, every time you walk in and out of a door today, just take a deep breath. Right?
I like that.
So and whenever you walk through a door, that's your cue.
Yeah.
To take a deep breath. Now, if you're not walking through too many doors, maybe you work at home, you're not moving around, whatever it may be, it could also be a certain color. So you might set that up on your desk. You might set that up on somewhere in your living room or in your room. But let's say the color is red. Whenever you see the color red, that's just your reminder to take a deep breath. So there's so many ways that we can incorporate, little bits and pieces of these into our day. And I go, if you check in with yourself, you'll start to see that you feel better. You feel more empowered, right?
Yes.
A lot of times we get, caught up learning these new tools, but they're to encourage us, for us to feel more confident about using the tools. And then that's what allows us to feel better.
Right. So of course I took a big breath because you're wearing red glasses.
Yeah.
But every time someone says breathe, I do breathe.
Yeah.
But what I heard from, I think, Dr. Caroline Leaf, who is a neuro researcher, and she said that if you do this breathing technique or that breathing process 10 times, your systems, all your physiological systems will slow down.
Yes.
It is like putting your foot on a brake, and it's not a choice. It's not just I will be at peace or I will feel good or I'll feel okay now. It's no, you actually really do slow things down and you don't feel quite overwhelmed or as intense.
Exactly. No, I fully agree with that. I believe that to be true. I mean, breathing in the morning, like one of the things that we've talked about before is, I get my clients to check in with themselves in the morning. I say, give yourself a number between 1 and 10, and then of course 10 is like, oh, I'm feeling great. I got this. But if your number's kind of low, let's think about those things that you can do. So we can incorporate the brace moment, right? The whole thing. So, all right, take a deep breath. I'm going to be realistic about the goals that I set. So just creating those things, and I go, then give yourself a new number after you set those intentions. What's going to happen now? Okay, maybe you're not a 3 anymore. Now you're a 5. Okay, I can go on with my day. But creating a system in place so you can start to feel better and not as overwhelmed with what the day, is going to bring.
Right. Yeah. That being realistic. I have told myself to be realistic so many times. And as a firstborn, type 2, got to help everybody. ENFJ, I'm all over the place with people. I'm very, connected, extroverted. My tendency is realistic expectation is to do everything for everybody all the time. Nope, not so much. Call me on that, Shayla. Tell me what that's
You already know. I'm ready. And so I'm going to already say it, and I feel like I've said this several times today already, is how can we help someone else if we're not full? People have to get what's left from the overflow, what's overflowing in our cup, because we have taken care of ourselves. If you take care of the other people first, we're left empty, and we're like trying to, grab bits and pieces that kind of fill us. So no, we got to take care of ourselves first. And then after that, we can say, okay, I can actually help them today because I did do those things that I said I was going to do. I did put
Right.
myself first. I took care of me today.
Yeah.
And so it's that. Does that help?
You know, I wrote a book on that topic. There might be a reason why. I have learned a few things about that. In fact, though, actually intentionally being realistic, like how to be realistic,
Mm-hmm.
I learned that time blocking was very effective.
Yes.
Actually deciding to, and this is tedious, but writing down every single thing I'm doing and how much time it takes. And then over the course of about 5 or 6 months, I'm homeschooling 4 kids at this time. They're all in very busy ages, lots of extracurriculars, way before the pandemic. And
Mm-hmm.
and I actually learned that there is no way that I can do all these things in a day. And also ever look my children in the eye without, running around like a chicken with its head cut off. And that was really useful to me to see that, nope, not possible. Gonna have to figure out how to do this, decide what's important and what's not important, and does it fit with my values.
Yes. Oh, I'm so happy that you said that, right? That is great. Is literally figuring out how it aligns with your values, right? So that's the
Right.
one that stood out for me. But I am going to go back. Sorry if I'm
Yeah.
confusing folks. But I want to go back to the time blocking. That's so important because I think a lot of times we say, oh, I can just do this. And we underestimate how much time it takes to do that activity. And so a way to kind of, once again, reduce some of that overwhelm, reducing your anxiety around trying to do everything is start to delegate. What can
Yeah.
I give away? What can I let go, right? That I can give to someone else? Is that something that my kids can do? Can my kids do some of
Yep.
those chores? Can they empty the dishwasher?
Yep.
Can they mow the lawn or, whatever it might
Yeah.
be? What can I give my husband some tools? Some things that he can do, so delegating. And that frees up some of our time. So when we create realistic goals, one of the realistic goals for the day might be to pass that on to someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Right?
really is.
Yeah. And
Sometimes
then,
it's doing that, but also recognizing for myself that, especially because I'm homeschooling, I'm with my kids all day. But even no matter what parent, when you meet your child and you've still got 6 things to do, you don't have your energy there for them. You aren't present with them. And they don't need to, I don't think we should be present with them 24/7. We're not God. In fact, they need to learn how to be themselves separately from us, but they also need time with us. They need that energy. And if we are always like, do, then we can't actually focus in on their hearts.
yes. Oh, that's so true, Teresa. It makes me think about, so, school is back in here. I'm
Yeah.
not homeschooling any longer, other than me just, of course, continuing to teach my child, to be a
Yeah.
productive adult.
Yeah.
And they had an after school program that opened up. And I really struggled with that, right? Because, she's the only child. So I wanted to make sure she gets, extra socialization, do some fun
Yeah.
things after school. And I struggled with that. And I was like, now, if she goes to that program, when she comes home, that means I had the opportunity to really tackle my tasks for the day. Therefore, I
Right.
can be more present with her
Yeah.
when she gets home, and we can
Yeah.
do, activities together like cook or, her homework, whatever's left over. And these extra 2 hours for her has made a big difference in just the way that I interact with her and our relationship during this time, because she has had more time away, more time to do some things, and I've had more time to take care of what I need to take care of as well.
Exactly.
So, we can find that, that in the middle of some of those things, but it was a hard decision. Happy that I did that. And so when we talk about letting go or delegating, that is a delegation, right? Me letting the after school program, give her some extra
Serve
tools
her.
after school
Yeah.
for, 2 hours.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking of all sorts of ways that we could have a discussion, but I definitely want to ask you about, I'm having a hard time reading these days. I'm declaring how old I am. But 3 steps worry technique. What would be the real consequence should the worst thing happen when you're worried? Second thing is, how would you cope with those consequences should they happen? And the third thing is, what would still be good in your life?
Yeah.
And I think, I think we all feel these uncomfortable emotions at times. We're feeling really intense. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we just want to tell ourselves we either can't feel them because we can't deal with it right now, or we don't want to ever deal with it. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Or when we do address it, we say, no, it really is the worst thing ever, and we won't know how to deal with it. So how do you use those questions with people?
Yeah, so one of the things, because when I hear this with my clients, is that they are scared to go to the worst case scenario. It's usually like a couple of steps before the worst case scenario. But when we literally play it out, I want to say that's question two. Like, okay, what would happen if really that worst case scenario happened? So let's say they did go and play softball. Let's say we're talking about our kids and they broke their arm.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the worst case scenario. So what will we do? Well, the school will call us. We'll go there. We'll meet them at the hospital, the local hospital. We'll love on our baby. We'll see what the doctor's orders are. We'll bring them home with a cast. And guess what? We dealt with it. But a lot
Yeah.
of times we don't want to go all the way to that worry. And so that's the step further. And then when we realize, like, okay, wait a minute, I can handle this, it's not as bad as we think it is.
Right.
And the more we practice that, we get more confident using that tool. And therefore, now we're not letting our worries take over our day. And we get to reroute them. That's exactly what we're doing. We're rerouting our worries when we do that.
Rerouting. I like that. Yeah, because it's
Yes.
practice, 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 rerouting. If we're accustomed to worrying, then it's almost like, no, I'm not going to say snow down a hill or a mountain. You're familiar with snow, right? You're in upstate New York
Yes,
now.
I'm familiar with snow.
I'm currently talking to a lot of people that are like, snow. Okay,
What
I'm
is
from
this?
Canada. So anyway, snowball coming down the hill, it builds up momentum, but
Yes.
it also, well, actually, maybe it doesn't. But anyways, it gets more snow.
Mm-hmm.
It gathers more snow. It creates a path. And if you were to repeat your worries over and over and over, it's almost like you're repeating those worries in your brain and creating that neural network and cementing that neural network. And it continues to build until you practice pushing that snowball down the hill a different way. I don't know
Exactly.
why I'm thinking of snowballs. There's no
But no,
snow.
it was a great analogy because it does pick up momentum, and that's what happens. And so one of the things that I think of is, when there's something that we're avoiding because we're worried about it, it's like, oh, there's a little cat behind us, and we don't want to turn around and look. And so then we imagine it being a bobcat, an even bigger cat, and then, a jaguar, and then a
Yes.
tiger, then a cougar or whatever, which order. And then next thing you know, there's
Yeah.
a big yeti behind us because we just wouldn't turn around and deal with it. But when we
Right.
really turn around, it's just a little cute little Siamese cat that
Yes.
we could have dealt with. And so the longer it keeps going down this hill, right, and you're saying building up this momentum, it gets bigger, but we could have stopped it by just kind of turning around and dealing with it. And that goes back to, well, what if it is worst case scenario? We have the tools to deal with it. And if you don't, there's
Yes.
people out there that can help you to get
Yeah.
access to those tools, right? There's therapists
Yeah.
who specialize in anxiety.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
therapists who specialize in worry management. And so we learn these tools so you can get confident, in utilizing them. And that way you can start to reduce your stress around those.
Yeah, I love what JP Brown '07 said. Schedule those worries. And I
Yes.
remember hearing someone say that you should schedule them.
Yep.
I have to say, I'm not a worrier because I feel like I've had worst case scenarios happen on repeat in my life so often that I'm like, I'm good. I've surrendered. I accept that they will happen. I hate to say that, but it's actually true. But schedule those worries. When you're in the practice, your brain is just naturally more of a worrier than actually setting aside a time in the day to say, okay, from 2 to 3,
Mhm.
you're on it. Whereas the other parts of the day, you got stuff to do.
Exactly. So no, I'm a big fan of schedule those worries. So yep, JP Brown for pointing that out. Thank you. And Teresa for
Yes.
reminding me of that. And I have a worksheet around that, right? Because
Oh,
it can
perfect.
really consume your whole day with your worries, right? Because one worry leads to another worry that leads to
Yeah.
another. And if we can train our brain to say, nope, we're going to worry at this time at 2 p.m. on Tuesday and Wednesday for 2 minutes, then that's what we're going to do. And what we realize is we think that we're worrying all day, but I always go, it's really a shallow worry. We don't take it all the way there. And
Right.
so when we do the intentional worrying, because we set aside time for it, I go
Yeah.
all the way into that worry. And then people realize they really don't like that feeling. So then they'll
Definitely
start to
not.
really use worry for its purpose, which is to problem solve.
I wonder why if you keep pulling back the layers, the reasons for worry, I wonder if it's control. And just like if
Mm.
I could just control this scenario, and most of the times where we're worried about something, we have zero control in something.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, even if we allow our worry energy to infuse our choices in the moment, it usually is negative. It's somehow like it doesn't help the situation.
No, it doesn't help. And when you say the part about the controlling, that does come because I think about there's a level of uncertainty, right?
Right.
Like, oh
Yep.
no, what's going to happen? What's next? And so we get into this cycle of creating all these scenarios in our mind. What's going to happen next? The what ifs. And then let's just go, okay, well, what if? What if it actually does happen? And then you come up with your plan and then we move on to something else. And then there's no need to go back once you come up with your plan. Yet again, this is not an overnight technique.
No, it's not.
So
Actually, that's a good thing to say, because this is why we have to practice with the regular day-to-day worries. Like you're saying, should I allow my child to be on the team, or they might end up, in a cast, which by the way happened to me twice with the same child. Two different sports, the same child, different limbs. And so yeah, you practice with those smaller concerns, so when the really big concerns come up, then you know how to do it, and you just grow in that resilience, I guess.
exactly, right? Because
Yeah.
the more you practice, right? Isn't that where our confidence build? We get more,
Right.
oh, like, okay, no, I've done this before. I can do it. And we tell people that we work with, right? Relying on your strengths. Where was there a time where you did this before and you got through it? Right.
Yes.
And then so we build our confidence in that area. No different from we can write down all of our worries and then put a check by the ones that came true.
Right. Yeah. Also, that's just a waste of time, but it might be useful actually. If you're a worrier, there's a lot of possible worries. But having said that, maybe it's not a waste of time. Maybe it's really useful, because then you can look back and say, no, it didn't
Yeah,
happen.
it's a great tool because it allows you to see, especially if you're someone who likes to see things on paper and measure
Right.
progress, right? Definitely
Yeah.
one of the tools I use in my clients. No, literally write down all your worries, or write down 3 in the morning, 3 for lunch, 3 for dinner. And then out of those worries, see which ones came true that day. Out of those 9, if you did breakfast, lunch, and dinner 3 times a day, maybe one, maybe. We'll see. But what a great way for people to see if there's evidence for this to happen. Is it
Evidence.
true?
That's
Is it going to
good.
happen?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, is it true? Exactly. You actually said one other thing. I think you posted it today, and perfect. It's a Halloween skeleton. And
Yeah.
it says, stop letting others drain you. Whew. Okay, so anybody that cares about anybody, which is most of us, like I don't know what the percent of the population is actually sociopathic, but I'm going with a very small number, and the rest of us care about other people. So learning how to manage boundaries with other people, learning how to care about what they need or what their concerns are, but also disconnecting from everything that everybody's concerned about and being completely dependent on whatever their challenge is. You had a really good post there, and I could try to read it, except that I'm about to go to cataract surgery. So
Yeah.
tell me, that old. I'm that old. So tell me, how would you address that? The boundaries,
Yeah.
when people are training you.
So one, creating your boundary with, folks who are draining you. Like you said, we have folks that we love, but it can be really hard, and they can really bring a lot of that negative energy. And it goes back to, of course, taking care of ourselves, feeling ourselves first, right? So if we know what we need that day, we can already create that boundary of that might not be the conversation with that person today, because that's too much for me. I can't take on what they're getting ready to bring, right? So that's number one. And then 2, I know sometimes we have family members we really care about. You have to do what's best for your mental wellness in terms of folks. And some we just can't super cut off. I understand that. But creating a plan. We might keep the conversation short when we're talking with them, maybe calling them on a time limit. Right? If we know that it takes us 10 minutes to drive to Target, we might call them on our way to Target. Right? Maybe rerouting that conversation when they're saying negative stuff, helping them point out the positive. But we don't have to talk to them every day. We don't have to attend every event that they're offering or that they're having, but creating that boundary for you. And once again, give yourself a number. How did you feel doing that? Knowing that you put that in place and that you got the piece that you needed that day. That's what it's about, not sacrificing yourself for these other folks that may be draining you.
Yeah. So as someone that has had real boundary issues probably about 20 years ago or so, and I began to learn about them, I always felt though that I was insisting that other people didn't have, or let me say this differently. I somehow was thinking in my mind that if I wasn't loving them the way that they wanted me to love them, then I had to shift gears. I had to do what they wanted to do. Now, what I've learned actually in practicing my boundaries over about 20 years is that actually I love them better when I've put my boundaries in place. I live them more authentically. I look at their real heart. I can hear their real hearts.
Yes. I love it. Well said. I can't say
Yeah.
it better myself. Like you really hit the nail on the wall with that one. It's like when you have your boundaries and you're respecting your boundaries and, you know,
Yes.
enforcing them, it allows you to be better for them. So if you
Right.
know, once again, if they're poison, they're toxic conversation, you're like, I'm not going there. You get to be a better person when you want to deal with them or handle them because you're taking care of you first. So
Right.
no, you were
Yeah.
right on time with that one.
Or, you know, because it's the Halloween season, we can say if they are your candy corn, then you got to limit your candy corn.
But I love candy corn.
That's what my son said too. I'm like, that is like sugar with more sugar and a bit of liquid sugar.
Yes.
That is
Oh, and you have
exactly
to eat it in sections.
okay. All right. That's a very expensive dental appointment Halloween candy.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So if your person is candy corn, you got to limit your candy corn.
Yes.
Tell me what resources you have online for all the folks that are listening to us.
Yes. So right now, and we've talked about it before, the 7-day journey, journal journey, which gives you 7 journal prompts every day for you to just like start working towards your transformation, which I think is great. The other one is if they click the link in my bio, there's a course coming soon called Reroute Your Worry, where we will talk a lot about some of these things that we discussed today. They will learn that, you know, over pretty much about a 6-week time frame where they get to, you know, work at their own pace if they like. And so if they sign up, they'll get on the list. So they'll be the first one to know as soon as that is available. So those are the 2 things that are gearing up right now. So
I love your site. I love even the colors. I love the colors because it's very similar to mine. And you know, the greens and the blues just to me remind me of growth. And that's what this is all about. It's about growth.
exactly. Yep. Perfect. What I thought about, I was like, oh, what a nice calming color, very relaxing, very neutral. It lets you know that it is time for balance. It is time to breathe. It is time to shift if we need to. Yes. And
I
let go
love
of some
that.
of that control.
Thank you so much for joining me today. For anybody that is a homeschool mom interested in the S question, the socialization question, this afternoon I'm going to be hosting Homeschool Mama Book Club, and we're going to be talking about Rachel Gather Cole's book, The Well-Adjusted Child, The Social Benefits of Homeschooling, so you are most welcome to join. But as always, it has been such a pleasure chatting with you, and we've got to do this again.
We do. I had a
Love
great
it.
time as usual. Thank you, Teresa, for the invite.
Thank you so much for joining me. Mwah. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.